Hey friends, Sean from SGT Report here. Hey, thank you so very much for tuning in. For those of you that are able to find me at all on YouTube, God bless you. I'll tell you what, guys, I posted a video just the other day with my friend Dustin Nemos, and I watched in horror as YouTube refused to send out notifications to most of all of you. I swear if they sent out even 10% notifications to my 597,000 subs, I'd be surprised. That interview sits today at 30,000 views on a channel with 597,000 subscribers. So it's just very discouraging to see how YouTube no longer allows for a level playing field, and in fact they stack the deck against many of us on their platform. Guys, I want to let you know that you can always find my latest 3 videos sticky posted at the top of sgtreport.com. Please just go there directly. You'll always find my latest 3 videos right there at the top. See, there's the one with Dustin, there's one with Wes Christian about $100 trillion stolen from the people via Wall Street, and here's one from Peter A. Kirby about toxic skies. Yeah, that's about chemtrails, and I know YouTube doesn't like that information. I just want you to know, if you guys go to SGT Report, even every other day, not only will you be getting the real news of the day, you will find my latest interview right there. We don't need YouTube's algorithms to find my content. Just go to sgtreport.com. And I want to let you guys know too that I am using the Brave browser. It's free to download. It's more than 3 times faster than Google's Chrome, and unlike Google's evil Chrome, it will not spy on you. Plus, it has a built-in ad blocker. Take a look at how good Zero Hedge looks on the Brave browser. Those of you who go to Zero Hedge know they're now overrun by ads. Their pop-up ads are very distracting. If you use Brave, you don't have to worry about ads. It's a fantastic browser. It's free to download, free to use. Just install it on your computer or your phone and start using it today. You'll be glad you did. I'll leave the link below. I really appreciate each and every one of you, and a special shout out to my patrons who are literally at this point keeping us in the fight for truth, since YouTube has labeled my content harmful to my own viewers. Figure that one out. And they no longer allow us to monetize. Guys, I think you're going to enjoy this conversation. It centers around the fraud who is calling herself the Queen of Canada and the Queen of Australia. We've got quite the round table for you. On the line from Australia, Jayden O'Connor, and former federal senator for Western Australia, Rod Culliton, and their legal advisor, Darren Dixon. Gentlemen, welcome. First, Jayden, how are you? Thanks for helping us set this up.
Thanks, Sean. It's a pleasure to be on. We've been a big fan of your show for quite a long time, and it's great to talk to you.
Well, it's great to talk to you. Thank you so much. And why don't we say hello to Darren Dixon. How are you, Darren?
Quite well. And yourself?
I'm hanging in there. It's evening where I am in the States, 7:24 p.m. Central Time as we're having this conversation. What time is it there, guys? 10:24 in the morning?
10:24 a.m. in the morning, yes.
Down under, if we're to believe their math, you're down under. The official map of the world says you're down under. And down under joining us also is Rod Culliton, a grain farmer who decided to fight back against the big criminal banks who are hell-bent on stealing his farm and hundreds of others. And then he got involved in politics. Rod, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. And just for, we're a bit deeper down under where I am. It's 8:24 in the morning. We're always seem to be a little bit behind the East Coast, but we certainly lead in other areas. But yeah, look, thanks for inviting me to your show. And yeah, thank you.
Yeah, very good.
It's a pleasure.
I sometimes forget how vast Australia is, so you're even 2 hours earlier. Let me do a screen share, guys. It may be a good way to set the stage for this conversation. So your Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, was sworn in 2018, and that went a little something like this.
I, Scott John Morrison, do swear that I will well and truly serve the people of Australia in the office of Prime Minister, and that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, Queen of Australia, so help me God.
Well, I'll pause that. That seems a little strange. I didn't know she was actually the Queen of Australia. But get this, same thing going on in Canada. Here's Justin Trudeau's swearing in.
I, Justin P.J. Trudeau, do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, Queen of Canada, her heirs and successors. So help me God. I, Justin P.J. Trudeau, do solemnly and sincerely swear that I shall be a true and faithful servant to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II as a member of Her Majesty's Privy Council for Canada.
Now that one goes on for quite a while, and he pledges his utmost allegiance to the Queen and his secrecy if he's ever told anything in that Privy Council that ought not go out to the people. Gentlemen, who would like to begin this conversation? How do we set the stage here? Because you guys have a queen, but y'all think that's a fraud, correct?
Well, let me say
you go,
this.
Darren.
Let me say this. The Queen, according to English law, is not to be divided, and she is indivisible. And she is to rule her realms as the one Queen. But in 1952-53, the representatives of all the different realms got together and they actually divided the crown up and created these individual offices in each realm. So, and this is the end result of it. You have the Queen of Canada, Queen of Australia, New Zealand, etc., etc. That's actually a breach of English law. There's also an act called the Royal Titles Act in England, and this act provides that the Queen can adopt those titles in the realms, but only if her Parliament is responsible for that realm's foreign relations. And the problem with that is the Statute of Westminster came into play, and that removed the UK Parliament from overseeing the realms, and it was only under the Crown. So there is no law to allow for the Queen to adopt the titles in England.
Rod, did you want to jump in and give us your 2 cents on that?
Well, this is to put it in layman terms, I guess that's the best way to do it, is to say that, there's been a departure, and not only just in Australia, but right throughout the Commonwealth. And for that departure sets up what they, in effect, quasi-jurisdiction. And that's what we're operating down here in Australia. There is no question about that. And a lot of senators or politicians or members of Parliament are effectively, in a way, chosen by the parties, and they're put up no different to a racehorse jumping out of a barrier, and everyone goes for the favourite horse to get them over the line. And once they get into Parliament, they don't act as what we believe they should act as, and that is the safeguards of the constitutional oversight to make sure. Well, that's the role of a senator. The first role of a federal senator is to perform under his constitutional duties. He's a public trustee, and he must administer the law. And they're all been asleep at the wheel, allowing this foreign power or this pretended nonsense to go through and claim it's in favour of democracy, when democracy's starved of oxygen, and people's rights are being, there's been massive impasses and trespass on people's rights, and that's what we have to come back. We've lost the conduit to our sovereignty, and it needs to be restored, and that's what the Great Australian Party is about: honest government, restoration of the Commonwealth. We are all Australians down here, and we need our democracy and our real rule of law. Once that rule of law comes in, that protects ourselves as subjects, and our businesses and our families, and that's the bottom line, and that's what we're pushing for, and that must be restored. It's still there. But if we sit back and do nothing, we shall be known by our acts and actions, and allow us to be, in a sense, violated, our rights violated by this nonsense. And so that's what needs to happen. We must come back to grassroots and come back to our right, because the people are the sovereign power. You can't have democracy when the people are silenced.
Yeah, I think there's. Additionally, I'd just like to add there's there's a parallel system running that's outside of the Constitution here in Australia. What's actually occurring is they're only operating under the Constitution from time to time. Like, for example, when they want to kick someone out of Parliament, they will engage the Constitution. But in all other times, they're operating under an act called the Australia Act. Now, the Australia Act has much conflict with the Constitution itself. And let's talk about the clip we just looked at in regards to the Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, swearing allegiance to her majesty. If you have a close listen to it, it's to her majesty. So it sounds quite corporate. I think it's done on purpose rather than a slip of the tongue. But
it's the word art, isn't it?
It is, exactly. I've actually done a Freedom of Information request on the oath of allegiance, which the Governor General prescribes as an oath of office, which the Constitution is void of. And it appears that they cannot provide Scott Morrison's oath of allegiance that is consistent with the Constitution, because the actual oath is to Queen Victoria, and that was the Queen at the time of the writing of the Constitution. And the part in the Constitution provides that that Queen's name can be replaced with the King or Queen of the United Kingdom, but not a Queen of Australia. So that's why they're having dramas providing me with the actual oath that is prescribed by the Constitution.
Jayden, feel free to jump in at any point if you want to add anything to this, because I do have a question, but should I wait for a second, Jayden? Any comments?
No, you go for it, Sean.
Okay, well, I want to just sort of set the stage on what you guys are trying to do. In my correspondence with Jayden, my understanding is you guys are trying to get your country back because all Commonwealth countries have set up a fake monarchy. The Queen of Canada, Queen of Australia are fake titles for the Queen. Her coronation oath doesn't allow for it. I'm sort of paraphrasing there, Jayden. Correct me if I got that wrong, but the fact of the matter is, guys, the reality we face is that Justin Trudeau, in Canada, for instance, has sworn his fealty to the Queen. I call him the Hand of the Queen, like in Game of Thrones. He's the Hand of the Queen, and he just told the people of Canada he's taking their guns. Now, I personally think that comes right from her. I don't think for 1 minute he would do that without approval from Her Majesty, the Queen of England. That's the problem as I see it, guys, is that we're up against a juggernaut here, whether it's a fraud or not.
Well, in Australia, there has been usurpation of the crown. There is no question. And Darren's right. The Australia Act of 1986, which did not receive royal assent, and anything after 1973 is not valid in law, has allowed the states under that act to, in effect, rise above the Constitution when a stream can't rise above its source. I mean, you have a foundation law. It's like any business, you know, you have a constitution. There is a constitution. That is the laws. That is what the people of this great nation ratified back at Federation, and that is the law. And all laws are subject to that paramount law. So the problem we have is you run into this. They've set up these state courts under this, through a departure of the Crown, you know, purporting to be acting under its, you know, under its the laws and statutes of Great Britain, which is found in, just in our case, in West Australia through Section 16 of the Supreme Court 1935, which is still within the Act. And as you know, when you look up the jurisdiction of the court, that's what it tells you it's on. But when you go and hold these judicial officers, what we call them, you know, whether they're sitting coram judici, which means are they sitting under the authority or do they have an oath to Her Majesty, they just turn into a ball and just won't answer you because they're sitting in a nonsense. But they're getting you on your acquiescence. So basically, come to my court, you file an application or you file a notice of appearance to defend or whatever. Sign this document. There's your consent, and pay a fee. There's consideration. So they contract with you, and then they say, well, you came to this court and you accepted the jurisdiction. No, that is incorrect. There is only one jurisdiction, and that's what Great Australian Party is about. The people have got to stand up. Otherwise, we're just going to be slaves in our own country. And look, there's a big movement around the world. People are waking up. The critical masses, it's reverberating right around the world. These politicians are out of touch. You know, someone came up to, I looked at an interview this morning, and they're saying how the whole world, came together to deal with the coronavirus or COVID-19, yet they won't come together to deal with famine and starvation, because famine and starvation doesn't affect them. I mean, they're overfed, and other parts of the world are underfed, but it doesn't affect the politician. He still gets his salary, still dances around on the taxpayer's purse. COVID-19, that might just give me the sniffles. So if you tend to believe what the seriousness of that virus is, and one has to question that because so many experts have got a different opinion. But look, we've just got to come back to keep it simple, stupid, and the basics. And if you come back to your rule of law and all laws are subject to it, well, it's a pretty big, powerful tool to pull out of the toolbox and apply it. So that's what we're doing. We're just coming. All we're interested in is the law, nothing else. The law, and that's it.
Yeah, that's the
Bottom
problem
line.
here. There's, as I was saying earlier, a parallel system running where you have what's written in the law, and then you have this alternate system where they get you to agree to that alternate system by contract by making an application. And this is the thing, you go to the courts expecting they are courts of law, but they are really corporations. They're just simply there for profit and gain. They're not there under the original de jure constitution or queen. And what Rod's saying is the law in each state provides that the jurisdiction of that court must be under the de jure queen, and it must operate as a court as found in England. Now, there's a problem with all that because of international law, but what they do is they get you to contract with them within the application, and then you agree to that alternate jurisdiction, although it's not revealed what that jurisdiction is. And that's there lieth the problem. And that could really come down to that unilateral mistake when Party A is not aware, Party B is not aware of the contract terms put forward by Party A, being the court. So that could come down to that fit within the parameters of a unilateral mistake. 100%. I think what one good point to make is that when Rod went into court, he actually challenged the Chief Magistrate of the Supreme Court of Western Australia on this and said, well, hold on, your enacting act provides this jurisdiction under the courts of England, but you're not sitting under that. And that's what the Parliament has provided. So it is you who is in breach of the law, but they don't care because you've contracted with them. Now, this is the thing. Can you sit in the position of the law, or does the contract override the law? This is the question, and this is why Rod's taken this matter to the High Court of London for a determination where it's currently lodged.
Boy, I'm in over my pay grade here, guys. This stuff, look, I'm familiar with, the straw man and legal fiction, and your name all in caps is your corporate identity. Do you want to talk about some of that? Because I think that sort of plays into, at least to some degree, this discussion. You guys talked about word art, and, I'm really familiar with the work of Jordan Maxwell, and, of course, Owen Benjamin is really up on this stuff. But Jordan Maxwell, when talking about the banks, he would mention river banks, and the current, the flow of the river, and the banks control the currency, the flow of currency. This is all sort of witchcraft, isn't it? I mean, how do you take back your country if you have to deal with their corrupt courts? That's the part I can't get my head around.
Well, the thing is we have to do it. So it's a bit like a garden that hasn't been attended to for many years, and the crabgrass, we have this ryegrass down here, and it gets in everywhere. And that's what's happened. The people have just sat back and I wouldn't say accepted it, but certainly haven't taken it head on like we've taken it on. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. When I was approached to become a politician by Pauline Hanson, the Red Ferrari, I certainly said no. I just, I'll be upfrank on your. I said I didn't want to become a political tosser because that's all they are. They just the best way to describe a politician in Australia is like having a high performance ski boat floating out in the river, making a lot of noise but has no prop. And it just doesn't go anywhere. It sounds good, it looks stylish and sleekish, but it has no prop. And none of our politicians have a prop in Australia. And what we have to do, you're right when you say all caps, and they deal with you in all uppercase letters. That's their way of contracting with you so that you accept their jurisdiction. So what we have to do is weed the garden. And we've got, being a farmer, there's no good going out with a horse and plough, one disc plough and ripping up, 15,000 acres, because that's what we were sort of farming at one stage. But is to go out, bring your big machine out of the shed and do it, use that machinery. And that machinery in Australia is called the Constitution. And that is the machinery of law that every person is bound to, including the courts. You go to clause 5 and it says, all courts, everyone's bound to the Constitution. It says to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II of the United Kingdom shall extend to the United Kingdom, and that's why we've gone to London. We have jurisdiction in London. The Supreme Court Act of 1935 in Western Australia states it very clearly that we must be dealt with under those laws. Well, if we can't get Crown laws in Australia, well, we go to the United Kingdom and be dealt with under Crown law, because that's what the people want to be dealt with. That's what we're bound to that law. So entering into a nonsense is actually, we're actually open to liability to do that. So we are really holding them to account, and we must get back into the parliament. Look, when I was in the parliament, I took out former Attorney General George Brandis's middle stump. And I don't know if you know the famous Dennis Lilly, it's one of the famous cricket bowlers of Australian cricket, came out of Western Australia. And when Brandis, who the former Attorney General, came up to me and said, what made you ask a question like that? I just said, well, Dennis Lilly wasn't the only famous bowler to come out of Western Australia. And he came back on, I think, Jaden, it was about the 10th or 13th of October, 15th of October, and said, Senator Culliton, you spotted it, and you spotted the problem and no one else did. You got past 16 High Court justices, including 2 Chief Justices. I commend you, about why the court wasn't issuing its writs in the name of the Queen. I mean, this is supposed to be the big constitutional daddy court, and it's not issuing its writs in the name of the Queen. Then all of a sudden, where does Brandis go? He becomes High Commissioner of London, and they get rid of Turnbull. The thing is, they keep it's like the bank managers when we were getting all the farms back, undoing all their unlawful actions. They keep removing the CEOs of the bank. So they keep, once you put the heat on them, the heat gun or the crosshairs on them, they switch the targets. Mm-hmm. So we need to get back into Parliament, get back into the upper house, which is the overarching, the watchdog for the Constitution, and apply it. But the problem is, it's the Australian government, it's not the Commonwealth Parliament. So there lies a jurisdictional problem again. And if you look at, they claim that the old Parliament House is the old Parliament House, and the new Parliament House is the big bloody concrete block on top of the hill. But when you go back to the old Parliament House, it has to be the Parliament House because it's got the royal identifier. and the new Parliament House has the kangaroo and the emu, which is under Queen of Australia. So, you know, it's just this big. It's a counterfeit. It's the best way to describe it. It's just a big counterfeit, and we need to correct it. And the only people that can correct it are the sovereign power, which is the people, and that's what we have to stand for, and that's why we're standing up as a federal party. So,
and
Darren, you jumped
just
in
to
there.
get back to what you were saying, Sean, about the sovereign stuff and about the all caps letters and stuff. It's two systems running alongside each other. One's real, one's not. And that's the way that they get us, is by coercion and trickery into that fake system that they've got running alongside the real de jure one. And, you know, basically we want to get back into the parliament to make that parliament run as the Constitution intended, as our founding fathers of that Constitution framed. The Senate is basically a court, and it's full of representatives that are elected. And we're not seeing that these days. We're seeing a lot of these people that are getting in there acting like movie stars, and they're selected, not elected by us, the people. And they've taken away our voice because they're not representing our voice. They get in there and they have a different agenda, and they just basically get handed a script and say, this is what you're talking about today. They're not representing the will of the people. They are just puppets.
Yeah. What's actually occurring, Jason, is the fact that the politicians are actually representing the political parties here in Australia and political party agendas. They're not concerned with any of the agendas of the people themselves. So they're actually pushing these party agendas, which are usually based on United Nations agendas. We have politicians that are involved and sit on the United Nations councils. And I do believe they're in breach of our constitution because they have allegiances to foreign powers, which the United Kingdom is. Sorry, the United Nations is. Getting back to your question in regards to the legal entity, I can give your listeners something that they can use in court. In regards to the legal entity or the corporation, as all courts want you to appear as. And I can break it down like this. It's a pretty simple concept that you can pitch to a judge so as not to be known as the corporation, or as you were putting it, the straw man. And it's pretty simple. It's basically like this. There's two types of corporations. One is a corporation aggregate and one is a corporation sole. So let's look at the corporation aggregate. And a corporation aggregate is many people acting as one. So, you know, companies like McDonald's or, you know, Amazon, you know, Amazon, there's probably like 50 investors there and they act as Amazon. So it's many people acting as one. Then you have a second type of corporation called the corporation sole. And a corporation sole is one person acting as one. And corporation soles in the world are people like the Queen, the Pope, the Archbishops of Canterbury, department heads of government are sometimes created as corporation soles. And what that is it's the reason why it's created as a corporation sole is the office is perpetual, but it just has different office holders. When you are before a judge, what will happen is the judge will ask you to appear in person as the corporation. And what you need to do is you need to ask him whether you are a corporation aggregate. And you must state that you are not, because you are not many people acting as one. And then you can only be one other corporation, which is the corporation sole. But the judge will most likely tell you that you cannot be a corporation sole because a corporation sole is created by statute. And then you need to thank the judge for confirming you are not a corporation sole nor a corporation aggregate, and you are therefore the man. So that's the way to get around the court actually imposing these sorts of corporate fallacies upon you.
Yeah, I love it. I've got to get deeper into this stuff, and I had an expert who was scheduled to come on, and he was a no-show. My friend Sophia Smallstorm helped set that up, so I will cover this straw man stuff here in the future. Jaden, you might want to mute your mic. We're getting a little weird feedback stuff. It might be coming from you. I'm not sure. Let me ask you guys this. You've taken this jurisdiction argument to the London High Court of Justice. Where are you in the process? How long does something like this take?
Well, the matter is a judicial review, CO 588/2020, filed in the High Court of Justice, and we've filed our submissions. The respondents are the Attorney General of Western Australia, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Western Australia, and the Governor of Western Australia. And we've had the State Solicitor's Office try to say that we don't have a valid claim, or it has no merit. The interesting thing about that is that they won't file an appearance. So it's a little bit hard to see how a court exercising Crown jurisdiction would accept hearsay from a state solicitor that hasn't shown whether it has standing as coram judici, or furthermore, the respondents haven't filed a notice to appear in the court. So I'm not sure how a court can take such a direction, which it can't, to be honest. So that is progressing well. It's been filed with the court for some time, but also and of course COVID-19 came in and suspended all the courts. But we say, based on the interim legal advice that we've now also engaged, and it's important that your listeners know that, and Darren will vouch for this, and others, is that the sovereign elders of this country have also intervened in the matter, including a lot of Australian farmers and station owners. It's getting very good traction, although it was suspended because of the shutdown of the courts, and we're anticipating those courts to reopen very shortly. And we've got some of the highest legal minds in UK looking into the case as well. We've paid for that interim preliminary advice as well.
Very good.
It's unprecedented, really, what it is. So, yeah.
Yeah, what's occurring in Australia is the government are trying to race towards a republic, and the reason I feel they're trying to do this is to cover up a lot of the improprieties that have come before. So things like this Queen of Australia, and I'll just add this so the viewers have got an understanding. This within our constitution, we only have a certain amount of lawmaking powers, and the subject matter of those powers does not cover the creation of an alternate monarch or queen. That's something that needs to be done by the UK Parliament, usually by letters patent. Our Commonwealth government fails also to have the power of incorporation. And yet here we have them creating massive amounts of corporations within the departments and also the Queen. They're running punch drunk with power currently, and they're just hoping that everyone's munching on a meat pie and drinking a beer, and they're at the footy, so to cover up for these indiscrepancies.
Huh.
Well, can I just say this too? It was unanimously upheld in the 1988 Constitutional Report, Darren. I think you should touch on that, to whereby the highest legal minds had made a decision that there had been a departure from the Crown, and that there had been a departure from our laws pursuant to the laws of the Commonwealth. So,
correct. And within those Constitutional Commission reports that were advised to the Attorney General's Office, there were recommendations or bills that were provided to the Attorney General's office to recommend changes or referendums to be put to the people so as to recognise the Queen of Australia in the Constitution, and so as to allow all the senators and the members sitting in Parliament to swear oaths of allegiance to the Queen of Australia. But these bills were never presented to the people, and therefore that is actually still lacking within the Constitution. There is no Queen of Australia in our Constitution. And you'll probably find the same things happening in the alternate constitutions in New Zealand and Canada.
Let me ask you guys this. Jaden, you're muted. So as we round out the conversation, I don't know how much support we can give you. You know, the majority of my listeners are in the United States. Of course, we do have listeners around the world, though. Do you want to talk, guys, about what you're currently doing? I know that, Jaden, you mentioned offline we got cut off, and then we all jumped back on. Jaden, I think you're running for office. And Rod, you currently, you've got some stuff cooking yourself, Rod. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and maybe do a little unveiling of a little certain something?
Yeah, well, I've been actively down here working on our prime mover, in fact, a political bus that is going to be our locomotive, and we're, anticipating that we'll be pulling a lot of carriages, and those carriages must be pulled to get the support, and that'll be across the whole nation. So the ethos of Great Australian Party is really to perhaps do what the English have done, and they've come out of the EU, and we need to do the same. We need to come out and come back under our sovereign laws, and that's so come back to the grassroots. And what I do like about America and certain people over there, they're very constitutionally minded. They always talk about their constitution, whereas in Australia there are only certain parts of Australia that are talking about the constitution. So we need to now re-enliven that. So that's the ethos, and we come under ACCIT. Although we've never left the Crown, we have these quasi-jurisdictions trying to deal with us, usurping the powers of the Crown, and that's why we say we must do an ACCIT, which is an Oz exit, come back under our rule of law. So, so that's basically the ethos of where we're going, because we can't just win it in a foreign jurisdiction. We have to go back to Parliament and reconstitute the Parliament, bring it under as the Commonwealth Parliament, not the Australian Parliament, and that can only be done, with the support of the people and from that platform. And I did try to do that, and we saw a large number of Section 44 of the Constitution removed a lot of parliamentarians. I was the first person to enliven all that. A bit unorthodox, but it worked. And there was, I think in total there was 17 that fell. Some didn't return, and some went to a by-election. So that's we just have to push the reset button, and it's there. We need to bring it out and bring it front and centre, and that's what the Great Australian Party is about, for the Great Australian people, and we're all great Australians. So,
Rod and Jaden, do you guys feel that the Australian people are ready to take back their country? I talked to people like Gemma O'Doherty over in Ireland, and she's pretty disgusted by the majority of Irish people that seem willing to just go into this good night of the New World Order and the EU and just let the chains rest lightly on them. How would you gauge the Australian people? Are they ready to take their country back and actually get involved?
Well, yeah, because let me tell you this, if you've got nothing better to offer, or you don't have substance, what Darren and Daryl and Neil have got is 20 years of FOI investigation, freedom of information reports, where they've written to the Attorney General, which they've come back and said they can't find an instrument that links the authority back to the Constitution. I mean, we have got the facts, we have got the presumption on the table, and Darren touched on it this morning. It's we have the presumption. And while the presumption's on the table, if they can't rebut that presumption, then people start to say, well, hang on a minute, there is something not quite right here. And I think this COVID-19 has come at a time. People are impressed about being shut indoors and all this mixed report on, we're now saying, well, there could be a second wave, and yet really in Australia, there was far more greater people catching the flu than what there was catching COVID-19. A lot of them came in on the ships, but I'm not disputing that there's no virus out there. There is a virus, but the seriousness of that virus, that's what the medical experts are sort of not all lining up to. Their ducks aren't lining up on that one. So that sort of raises concerns. But no, there is a change, because people can see that their rights are being affected, and we need to be able to carry the message and put the message out there so it sticks, and keep it in a simple term, because it is overwhelming. Anyone that studies law is, there's a lot of reading, and there's a lot of different passages, and like you say, the bastardisation of the English language, which is occurring quite a bit in the courts down here. So we have to keep it simple, stupid, bring it out properly, and support it with evidence. And that's what GAP has now. It's ready to campaign, and we've got the expertise of Darren and Daryl and Neil. We work as a team, and we say we've got the best team in the Southern Hemisphere. There's no question about that.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, it's the Great Australian Party. And final word from you, Darren, and then Jaden.
Yeah, I suppose you do touch on something very familiar to everyone around the world, and that is the complacency of the general public. There's definitely a group of people that are actually proactive in regards to bringing great change to the country here. But there is that general populace that unfortunately has that complacency, and I do believe that's due to a lot of indoctrination. But hopefully they can see through the fog and actually see something that's good and is wholesome and has substance, and move towards it.
Excellent.
Guys, can I give you
sneak peek of the bus?
Yeah, I'm just gonna give you a bit of a sneak peek, and I haven't sort of put it out to the Australians yet, but I'm going to. Here we are. I'm just going to give you a little bit of the locomotive that we've been proudly doing up.
That's a nice bus. You're going to be
hey guys, you guys always brag how shiny your bloody rims are in America, but we'll have to have a competition. I don't think you're going to get them more shinier than that. I mean, so look, and there's one of the. There you go. Oh, gee, someone's in the background there. Looks a bit similar.
Looking good.
But, so, we're going to launch that very shortly. And then
wouldn't you know it?
All the guys will have their own TVs and their own bunks and everything like that. So it's kitchen's all underneath. It's got a couple of toilets and shower, and we're away.
Well, I hope that freight train helps you take your country back, and I really do appreciate your guys' time and your patriotism to your own country, but, to humanity as well. I mean, we're all in this mess together. It's what I keep saying, and the banksters, at this point in human history, it's really the banksters against we the people, I swear to you. That's where I keep coming back to, is these
it's the power of money, isn't it? It's the power of money, and,
right.
and those
central banks.
And they donate to the big parties. I mean, they're the biggest contributors to their campaigns is the banks, and we in Australia want to come back to a sovereign bank, and so the beneficiaries are the people. It's assets, the people's assets, not the corporations that are selling off all our great resources. And the other thing too is, how do you have foreign exchange or foreign relationships with countries when you're under a pretended title? How do you do business with America when you're under this pretended title of Queen of Australia, which in fact is Australian government that's racking up the debt, which is not a debt against the Commonwealth
of Australia. It's some other entity raising a whole heap of racking up a whole heap of debt, and I just think that that's why it needs to be corrected for everyone's sake, not just for Australia's sake.
That's right. All right. Well, guys, I've really appreciated your time. This has been a great conversation. Jaden, thanks for helping set this up. I really do appreciate that.
No
and
problem,
just for you, there's the famous logo right there.
Look, at the end of the day, Sean, it's about freedom, and it's about accountability for doing the wrong thing in representation of the people. People don't have representation anymore. It's gone out the window long ago. We need to get that back. We need to make these people accountable for when they're not listening to the people, and we need the juror system back to represent people and their values, and not have our kids be paying off unpayable debt for the rest of their lives and generations to come. We all know what these problems are. These people around the world are only a small minority, and if we can get people behind us and support us in what we're doing, we found the keys through the law. I mean, our great team behind Darren and Daryl and Neil over in England, these people have found the keys to open up our de jure system back, and if we can get enough support through that, we will have freedom.
That's right. That's fantastic. All right. Well, I couldn't have said it better myself. Guys, I really do appreciate your time. Jaden, thanks for setting this up. Thanks for your time tonight, guys, and best of luck. I mean, you guys are out there. You're the soldiers on the front line there trying to take your country back in the name of liberty for the people, not for the crown. Jaden, thank you so much. And Rod, good luck to you on the road.
Thank you. Yep.
And Darren, thank you so much.
Good on you. Thanks, Jason.
All right.
Bye for now.
God bless.
Thank
God bless, guys. And for real news, friends, you can visit us directly at sgtreport.com 24/7, the antidote to corporate propaganda. Bye-bye.
You know, with Antifa, they're willing to go as far as it takes. They're willing to kill, and they even get excited about that idea. They talk about it, they plan it.